Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, November the 23rd. Hey, Thanksgiving's coming. We got a lot to be thankful for. Weather's cooling off. Fish are starting to move. We're going to talk to Tom, Lee, Gentry, and then Tracy Robinson and find out what's going on your favorite body of water. We'll be right back with what the guys have to say. Hey, it's the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and we're going to give some thanks for Tom Ott joining us here. Going to talk a little bit of Lake Gunnersville fishing. Tom, the cold snap, the rain, man, these fish got to be moving.
Dano, we were just talking about that with Blake. This weather coming in is really I think it's going to really kickstart a lot of things. There's so many patterns happening on Gunnersville right now. You can catch them trapping, you can catch them throwing a jerk bait, you can catch them doing some top water stuff. This cold snap's really going to start putting things in motion where most fishermen like to have them. We want to see those fish chasing those big wads of bait, but in a school kind of pattern, and start to spread out a little bit more to the deeper edges of the grass, so on and so forth. So I think that's going to be that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that drop in water temperature, just kind of kick off the feed bags a little bit, and your same old baits are going to be doing it, just like we've talked. Your swim baits, your chatter baits, rattle traps are starting to catch some fish. And again, the jerk bait. And then the king, of course, is the A-rig. If you put the right trailers on there, it just seems to attract fish left and right. So, but if you get out there and grind a little bit, I think the morning bite's going to start to slow. It hasn't quite yet because we haven't got that water temperature drop, but it's going to start to slow. And then your afternoon bite's going to start to pick up a little bit better. But, that's what we like to hear this time of year.
So, okay, that morning bite's going to start to slow down because of the cold weather and all that stuff, but it hasn't quite been there yet. Are they just starting to make the moves now towards those creeks and follow the bait?
They've been doing that, but we've just had such a mild winter, or fall, I guess. It's just been so mild that the fish have just kind of migrated back and then forth, and they haven't really positioned themselves anywhere like at the points or anything like that. It's just kind of been a migration or a slow movement of individual fish. But I think this is going to get that real hard push going for sure.
What about the other species? Crappie, are they still in the causeways? Are they moving? Where are they at?
Well, I think you're going to see them at the causeways, for a long time right now anyway. But that is also starting to happen. They're going to follow that bait. As that bait starts to move shallower and shallower, you're going to see those crappie. And when I say shallow, I'm talking about areas that are close to deep water, but you still have plenty of vegetation or you cover, whether it be brush pile, stumps, things like that. But it's going to be close to deep water, and that's where your crappie are going to be. And I think once that starts to happen, you're going to see that throughout the wintertime.
Tom, as always, my friend, we appreciate everything, all your insights. We'll talk to you again next week, my friend. Hey, we got Lee Pitts with us here. We're going to talk a little bit of Weiss Lake and Neely Henry. Hey, let's start at Neely Henry. What's going on the river?
We've had a little bit of a rain this week, which was well needed, but we got it all real quick, too. So it's sending that water on down the river and had a lot of current on Neely this week. So, it's kind of looking for those eddy spots. Those fish just don't want to sit out there and hold fighting that current. So wherever you can find the longer points have been good. Kind of like last week, still throwing some traps and little square bills, and even catching some on some soft plastics around that wood cover. But it's just been kind of which we needed the rain. It's just been one of those deals. Just kind of had a lot of current come and hit us at once, so it's been a little tougher bite on Neely.
Is it time to start slowing down, or is it time to pick up and move faster right now?
Well, I'll kind of get to that one on our next body of water.
Okay.
It's they're laying there in that current, kind of nosed up on it, just getting a little break from it. They'll still chase.
Okay. Crappie on Neely, have you heard anything?
Yeah, it's still the same thing, getting on some of those deeper docks on downriver. With that much current that they've had, it's kind of hard to keep if you're vertical fishing on the brush piles, it's been harder to keep on that main river channel to keep that bait in the strike zone.
Gotcha. All right, let's turn to Weiss Lake. That's home for you. What's going on up there?
It's been a pretty good week at Weiss. I don't know what the difference is, and that's why I was kind of hesitant on some of the things I was going to say a minute ago. But we had a last weekend. I don't know what happened, if everything, the stars just lined up good, but we had on one of the tournaments had two different bags over 21 pounds. And what most everybody was doing was fishing on that river and looking and concentrating on the smaller cuts. Even though the water's low and it was down, had a little bit of current coming through there, and man, the fish just really, really piled up in these little bitty cuts off that river. A lot of guys said what they were looking for. If you could ever see stripe busting, you catch 4 or 5 big old stripe, and then all of a sudden it'd be 2 big 5-pound largemouths in there with them too. So, a spinnerbait bite. I think a couple of guys caught them on some jerk baits doing that right there, and also cranking. So up and down that Coosa on Weiss has been producing some pretty good fish. I said last week we're catching a lot of fish, hadn't seen the big ones. The big ones showed up this last week.
Lee, as always, brother, we appreciate everything. We're going to talk to you again next week. Talk to you soon, brother. Hey, joining us today is Tracy Robinson. We're going to talk a little bit of Logan Martin and Lay Lake. Tracy, let's start at Logan Martin. What's going on there?
Yeah, Logan Martin, fish still biting pretty good there, catching a ton of numbers there, but size still isn't quite there. But they're chasing bait fish really heavy in the creeks right now. You can get in those creeks and you're going to see them blowing up, and you can get in there with some top water, pop-bars, chugging type baits, and catch a lot of fish. Chasing shad right now, which that's typical fall time pattern. But a lot of activity going on top right now.
Are there bigger fish maybe around the dying grass, or is there something going on to find the bigger bites?
No, we tried one day. It's been about a week and a half ago, but the water's dropping too, and you can't really get into that grass fishing right now because there's hardly any water in it. They're dropping it down for the winter pool, but I don't know what to tell you on the bigger fish. We've tried a few things, but we haven't caught any size in the past week or two. It's just a tough time right now for that bite with the fall transition. The water's turning over, water dropping, a lot of changes going on. I'll probably get dialed into something, but I can't tell you right now what's going on with the bigger fish.
Gotcha. Well, to me, it seems like find something that's a little more vertical to be able to kind of keep yourself where the fish don't feel like they have to run away from it is probably the best thing to do. All right, let's turn our attention over to Lay Lake. What's happening there?
Lay, there's been a lot of tournaments over there the past few weeks, and even since the ABT, the weights are still staying pretty high. A lot of 17 to 19-pound bags being caught down there. It seems like most everybody's chasing the scoping fish out there, Dano. Matt and I went down there and we caught some on a spinnerbait. We did what you just talked about. We got on some of those vertical walls down there with a spinnerbait, and we're just putting that spinnerbait right up against the wall, just basically letting it, just come back at a really slow sinking motion against that bluff wall, and we caught some pretty good fish there in that 2 to 3.5 pound range doing that. You can scope them right now. We did stop a few times and hit a few balls of bait, and we could catch several fish out of each one of them. But you could stay with the school, but once you caught 2 or 3, they got a little bit finicky. But when I say they're chasing them, there's some guys out in the middle of the lake down over 60 foot of water chasing them. There's people, in the creeks chasing them, and we're seeing them catching them both in the creeks out on the main river. So I don't think it really matters where on those fish, that they're chasing with the scope, and it's just get around those bait fish and drop something in there on them.
Sounds like a interesting plan. Tracy, appreciate everything. Thanks for filling in. We'll talk to you again soon. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit of Lake Martin and Jordan Lake fishing with Gentry Gordy. Gentry, I know things have been transitioning, and it kind of keeps things in a lurch, but what can people be doing out there right now?
We'll start at Martin, Dano. Last week we talked about the rooster tail. This is the weather we was waiting on. These cooler nights we've got coming up. I know that will work. But up until 55 degrees at Martin, even a little cooler, you have to keep a top water plug honest. like, with the leaves falling, it's hard to throw a buzz bait or throw something right up close to the bank, which to me is where you're, even like they did back in that open, it's that will continue. It's just a buzz bait gets harder to pull through leaves and pine straw. I throw the ribbit frog up there a lot. Sounds crazy at Martin, but those fish will eat it. But your jerk bait, your small swim baits, dropping down on those schools of bait if you can find them. There's just not many there. But you start to see them in, midway going towards the back of the creeks, even with the water falling, with that water cooling off. That's where you're going to find your bait balls, if that's your cup of tea. Me, I'm going to go throw a spook, a jig, and a ribbit frog at Martin.
All right, let's turn to Jordan Lake. I know there's probably current going through the system right now because of the rains we have. What would you be doing there?
Well, I'm gonna run up that river until that current stops, of course. Or the new lake, just depending on which way it's pulling. If they're pulling out of Bolden, the new lake always produces when there's current coming through there. But if you got current, definitely do that. Otherwise, I didn't get to go up this week. I don't think that grass is really dying off yet. But that's definitely something I look forward to when that grass starts to die off. Other than that, it's, you'll see those fish push bait, up against, they'll get close to the bank. It's not like they're pushing up on the seawalls like a shad spawn or anything. But if you're ready, they'll bite. But it's, it's hard to base a good pattern off that.
What about crappie? You hearing anything about that?
I hadn't heard anything, but I've seen them, just like sitting over that trash pile in front of a dock at 12 foot of water. They're there, and you'll see a bass. You can catch a bass out of it, but they're not. They're not all bass because they're just a little bit smaller on the live.
A little bit smaller on the live scope, and maybe they don't respond quite as well.
Yeah, it might be bass. I just can't catch them. Who knows?
All right, brother. We appreciate everything. Thanks for the time. We'll talk to you again. Well, that'll wrap up our Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, November the 23rd. Thanks to our friends, the pros that help us put a few fish in the boat. It's always helpful to get that information to get us started. Don't forget, folks, at that time of the year, you want to start thinking about that tournament boat you got coming up. Come see our stale staff here at Bucks Island, Katie, Patrick, and Melissa. They'll help put you in the boat of your dreams. If you're looking to keep yours running, go see Misty and everybody in the service department. Of course, you got Pat and everybody in the parts department. And then, of course, Colin upstairs with Jamie in the loft. And we'll be appreciative to see you here. You're the best part of Bucks Island, and we appreciate you.